sadly, so many people are getting back on the roadways and traffic is back. And what does that mean? It's going to lead to more accidents. I will say I kind of enjoyed being able to go out any time of the day and not having a lot of people on the roads with you.
Yeah, it's nice and peaceful. You got from point A to point B a little bit quicker. You didn't have to worry as much about people being distracted by doing a million things to move their day along while also driving in a motorized vehicle and doing things they shouldn't be doing in a car. Now you do.
Hey, so we want to go ahead and bring in Todd Berg. He's an attorney with the Michigan Auto Law, and they recently put together a list of Michigan's most dangerous intersections in 2020. Talk more about that. Let's bring in Todd Berg. Great to have you with us, Todd. How are you?
Good morning, Ronnie. I'm doing very well. Good morning, Tyler.
So are you back in the office?
No, I'm not. I'm still working remotely. Not everybody in our family has been vaccinated and cannot yet be vaccinated. So I have a very understanding boss, Steve Gersten, and he's allowed me to continue working remotely. So I'm in my button-down shirt with my camo shorts on right now.
Todd, you're a person after my own heart, let me tell you. But it has been strange for so many of us as we start to return to the office, and even just over the past 6 months, taking a look at the traffic. But you guys did this study, and you did it in 2020. What did you find, and why do you do it to begin with? You're a law firm.
Well, can I back up for just 1 second?
Absolutely.
So you're right. It was a very interesting year. Our law firm, we help people who've been injured in car and truck and motorcycle accidents, and so we follow these crash trends every year. We put out a list, put out a top 20 for the whole state, and we go county by county as well. And so we watch these things very closely because we see sadly we see the result of the tragedy that can befall families that are involved in accidents. And so 2020 was an extremely interesting year because, for obvious reasons, the pandemic shut everything down. People were working from home, people were working remotely, and traffic overall, not just in the intersections that we highlight in our list, but just traffic overall was drastically reduced. And I think across the state it was maybe 50% down, and I think even in Detroit it was down about 60%. And not surprisingly, the overall number of crashes in the state dropped considerably. But the one thing that did not and went the other way was the number of fatalities, which was extremely puzzling and frustrating, that less people were on the roads, but more people were being injured. And the data and information that we've been able to see is that a lot of that had to do with speed. And speed is a major contributor to fatal crashes every year. But I think that during the pandemic, the people that were venturing out, some of them were just taking more liberties with the open roads, and sadly, more crashes were occurring. And a lot of it had to do with the speed issue.
Yeah, and we've seen that. I remember those days as well, especially on the highways. I mean, people would be passing you at like 110, 120, and you're like, hey, this isn't a drag race here, people.
No, but I don't know. I don't know why people would do that. Because I mean, just driving fast anyway is extremely dangerous, and I don't know. It was a sad statistic to see. But hopefully, as people are taken back to the roads, hopefully we see some more safe driving. One of the things we did see in our intersection lists was that the general trend overall was considerable drops in accidents, at least at these intersections. And the reason we look at intersections, which usually includes roundabouts as well, based on the stats. The reason we look at intersections is because they are, I don't know if you know this or not, but I didn't until we started looking into this. They are inherently dangerous. 1/3 of all fatal traffic crashes in Michigan occur at intersections.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Really?
All intersections, stoplights, stop signs, you name it.
So,
and I hadn't really thought about it. I guess it does make sense because everybody's going in every which direction, and sometimes people aren't paying attention. You got people stopping and starting and turning left, but it's a serious issue. And, you know, we want people to be safe, and we want people to be able to make decisions about where they travel, how they travel, and keeping themselves safe and their families. And if you can avoid an intersection that you believe that you know it has a lot of crashes, great. If you cannot, then be on high alert.
So before we jump into some of the intersections, how do you compile your data?
We request the data from the Michigan State Police Traffic Crash Unit, and they provide it to us. They're fantastic, and they're fantastic, and they're willing to do it, and they're always helpful because their goal is also public safety.
Yeah.
It's to help people stay safe.
This is so. I'm thinking like it must be a lot of data to go through, though.
It's a ton. Yes, it is a lot. I'm not the one that actually does that part of it, but I have seen it, and I know it is a lot. And just preparing for our talk today, it's a lot to go through and look at to try to keep straight.
Todd Berg with us here on the MegaCast. He's an attorney for the Michigan Auto Law, and the law firm puts together Michigan's most dangerous intersections. And your 2020 list, give us a highlight of some of the intersections. And we hear a lot of talk about roundabouts. In your findings, how much of those contribute to some of these accidents versus our regular four-way stop, and then also our Michigan left?
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I cannot tell you about where the Michigan lefts come into on our list. We don't have the data for that, so I don't know that.
Okay.
And please forgive me if I have to look down a little bit because I did have to take some notes, and it's a lot to remember. So.
Oh, please read away. That's what we do. We're good with that.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to be rude and do that. Let me just give you a highlight. So
okay.
Our top 20 intersection, our big list, which is the top 20 for the state, the 16 of those intersections were in the Metro Detroit area, Wayne, Macomb, and Oakland. Wayne was in the top list, the top 25 times. Macomb was in 7, and Oakland was in 4 times. The other counties that made it into the top 20, Kent County had 3 intersections in Grand Rapids, and Washtenaw County had 1 intersection, a roundabout in Ann Arbor. And so overall, we had 4 roundabouts that made it into the top 20 of our most dangerous intersections in Michigan. 2 were Oakland County. One was the Martin Parkway Pontiac Trail roundabout. One was the Orchard Lake and 14 Mile. And then the roundabout in Washtenaw County, which is at State and Ellsworth in Ann Arbor. And then the other was 18.5 Mile in Van Dyke over in Sterling Heights.
And you wonder about that too, because when we speak with the Road Commission, they say that the roundabouts are actually safer. It's really trying to educate people. And, you know, I've traveled in Europe. Roundabouts are just a way of life when you're in Europe, and they seem to be able to navigate them so much better than we are here. And when you were looking at this, and I don't know if this was a factor at all, because some of them, especially the one here in Oakland County that made your list, at Orchard Lake Road and 14 Mile, it's so confusing because they also kind of come off and there are stoplights like right after them. It's confusing.
It is, and I don't think there's anything that's. I think it's all a question of habit and what you're used to. I mean, obviously, these things work like a charm in Europe. That's probably because people in Europe have been driving on them since they got behind the wheel. And this, for a lot of people, is new and it's challenging, and not all of us adjust real well to change and to doing things they haven't done before. And you know, there's a lot of moving parts. You're changing lanes. You're starting on this right lane. You're going way over to the left lane. Then all of a sudden you see a sign, and this, like you say, you're trying to get out, and all of a sudden you got a stoplight. What?
Right.
It's like a pinball machine.
And I hate it when I get into a lane and I want to go one way, especially the Orchard Lake of 14 Mile, because that's the one I take so much. But no, you're in that lane and it can only go straight, which then takes you up to the stoplight. Then you got to go all the way through, down the road, go back, do a Michigan left to get back to where you wanted to go.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah, you're right. You go through, you survive the roundabout, and then you still have to do a Michigan left. You got to add like 20 minutes onto your commute just to do it. I mean, when I go through a roundabout, I didn't grow up doing those things, and so they're all new to me. I just put my hands on 10 and 2, go nice and slow. Better to arrive alive. So if I have to go through, if I have to circle around one or two more times, that's so much the better.
And I will say, anyone who has been to France, like in Paris, the ones around the Champs-Élysées, they move so fast there. We got stuck on that once, and we just went round and round, round and round. It was like, hey, are we going to run out of gas at all? Because we were too afraid to move out. But in Europe, they were going at a pretty high rate of speed. Let's just say that.
They vroom over there.
Right?
It'd be very intimidating.
Yeah.
Especially compared to what's challenging us over here to go do that would be like death-defying, I think.
So we should note Orchard Lake Road, 14 Mile, Farmington Hills, 89 crashes and 11 injuries. And we're talking 2020 when we weren't driving the roads. And that seems like a pretty high number.
Yeah, it is a pretty high number. Unfortunately, it is, and but hopefully those numbers won't increase now that we're back and we are, leading the lives that we used to lead. The one thing I would like to say about the roundabouts is there is a lot of controversy about I shouldn't say controversy, and mind you, we talk about roundabouts and we add these in there. And we get a lot of pushback from people saying, you shouldn't talk badly about roundabouts. And we're not saying one thing or the other. Our whole goal here is just to provide information and try to help people keep safe. And there is a lot of discussion about roundabouts. It always comes up and people say, well, roundabouts are safer. And we're not here to dispute that. And we're not here to say one way or the other. Roundabouts, it appears, based on the numbers that we see, it appears that the accidents that occur in roundabouts tend to have fewer ambulances called to the scene than those intersections might have before. But at the same time, a lot of those some of those roundabouts have higher numbers of car accidents than they did when they were conventional intersections. And the concern that we have, and the reason we talk about the number of accidents, whether it's a roundabout or a conventional intersection, is because what we're trying to do is we're trying to talk about what's dangerous from the perspective of your danger, our danger, anybody's danger of being involved in or injured in a car accident. And it's not necessarily whether an ambulance was called to the scene or not. It's whether or not accidents are occurring there, because you're more likely to be involved in an accident where accidents are occurring. And so we try to focus on those intersections and roundabouts where there's the most accidents, because whether an ambulance is called there 10 times or whether it's not called there at any time, if there's a high number of accidents, your chances of being in an accident are greater because there's just more accidents. And the one thing, when people talk about the safety of whether it's a roundabout or any other intersection, a lot of times people point to, well, there's only so many injuries reported. The reports about injuries or fatalities at accidents is only what goes into the traffic crash report that's entered in by the police when they're there. What none of this takes into account, and this is what we see on our end, is the multitude of people that are in an accident who, because of the adrenaline of the situation or whatever else is going on, they don't think anything's wrong at the time. I mean, have you ever had that happen where you've injured yourself, you've been doing something, I don't know, maybe you're playing a sport or something, and you're just so wrapped up in what was going on, people say, what, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. But it hits later on. And that's what we see. And that's what our concern is are there accidents? Because if there are, your chance of getting involved and injured are greater. And the fact that something is reported at the scene by the police is not necessarily indicative of what happens. It doesn't tell the whole story.
That's such a good point. Again, Todd Berg with us here. He's an attorney for the Michigan Auto Law. And I know that you mentioned that the reason why you do this list is for public awareness. What is the feedback from the public? Do they pay attention?
Yes. Yes. Hopefully it is because people are interested in safety as we are. I think there's also a bit of just curiosity and just general interest. People like it's like talking about the traffic and weather. People like to talk about these things, and people have very strong opinions about what intersection is the worst. I mean, we will get comments on our Facebook page and to our blog posts, and they'll point out some intersection in their town that doesn't even make the list according to the state police statistics. But that makes a difference to them in whatever their community is. It works out really well because people like to talk about this. They like to talk about roundabouts. They like to talk about intersections and traffic. I mean, they just do. I mean, it happens. And fortunately, inadvertently, the safety message comes through because it's going to settle into people's minds. When you talk about that an intersection has 108 crashes on the course of a year, that kind of thing just sits in somebody's mind. They might not think about it right at the moment, but later on they might think, well, I'm going to take a different route. So I heard about this intersection. I saw it on TV. I saw a blog, or I saw it in the newspaper or something. Let's just try a different route.
I will say there are times that I try to avoid some of these. When I can, that roundabout at Orchard Lake, 14 Mile. Unfortunately, that typically is the only Starbucks that happens to be open lately. But the other one that I hate is Telegraph Road and 12 Mile Southfield. And these are poorly designed intersections, I think, as well. So, but with that, Todd, if I can ask just a minute or two here with you, how could people get the full list?
Oh, they can go to michiganautolaw.com, and they can go to our section on dangerous intersections. They could also go to our blog, where we have lists for Oakland, Macomb, Wayne, Detroit, Kent, Muskegon, all kinds, probably at least 10 or 12 different counties, Michigan counties, with a top 10 most dangerous list for those individual counties.
Again, we're talking with Todd Berg. He's an attorney for the Michigan Auto Law. Todd, great to have you with us. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. I had a great time.
It really